Hello, everybody, and welcome back from where Civilization Start Over. In the last episode, we saw the peace treaty of World War V and the start of the age of de-evolution. Not like in a human sense, but in the empires around the world and large countries breaking up peacefully to help with a feeling of self-determination of the people of the world. So I have the alliance layer up because I want to discuss that first. First, you might see the Triangle Alliance, the Cross Alliance, Agon and Guyana and Peru have been both kicked out of the Star Alliance, and this is because of their imperialist actions and part of their punishment for partaking in World War V. Now, one alliance that's still holding strong and doesn't feel like they're done is Circle Alliance. Because right next to them, Vietnam is still an imperialist nation, and the Circle team doesn't really like that. They want all imperialism out of the world. So they will start, building up some troops along this border. One second. Along here, they have troops building up. And Vietnam sees this and is like, Australia, you want to help me just in case? Want to form an alliance? And Australia is like, you know what? We're the last two imperialist nations in the world currently, so why not? So, Vietnam and Australia will form the Lightning Alliance, in an effort to deter aggression from the Circle Alliance. But here's the thing, that's not gonna help them out a lot, because India might have thought that would happen and made a secret agreement with another country. And what country is that? It is South China. And not just South China, North China. And all these 6 countries in the Circle Alliance come to agreement that the Lightning Alliance needs to be taken out right now. They need to be destroyed before more imperialism happens. So, the Circle Alliance will declare war on Vietnam and Australia. Now, the reason they're able to do this so quickly after World War V is, keep in mind, the Circle Alliance wasn't, heavily involved in the war until the end, and most of the fighting in the Middle East was done by Trapezoid Alliance and the Star Alliance. So, that's why India is able to lead the charge against Vietnam and Australia. So with that being said, I gotta fix my layer section. There we go. With that being said, Indian troops will cross the border into Vietnam and start heading towards this major city. Now here's the thing, Vietnam's pretty strong militarily, and they're able to make their own, like, advances into here. I don't want that color, though, for them. Yeah, more so that color. And since they're able to push back so well, India will struggle at first at the start of this war, with Vietnamese troops entering here and expanding here. Now, China, North and South China, will be working together to help topple Vietnam's empire. Because keep in mind, China at one point together was the strongest country in the world in this timeline, but they aren't together anymore. But when they work together, they're still able to be just as strong, but not like #1 strong anymore. That still goes over Vancouver, and after separating so much, just Vancouver's really wealthy and has a very well-trained military in this timeline. But the Chinese are just as strong. So, South China will take the first major city in this conflict, and North China will help push down. But Vietnam kind of figured that China would go for the north first, so they enter in through the south over here to hopefully pull some troops away from the north. They're able to start threatening the city, and this does go to plan for Vietnam. South China does pull back a little bit up here, but North China holds. Now, Australia, here's the thing about Australia. They have a very powerful navy in this world. Like, they probably have the strongest navy in the Eastern Hemisphere. So, they are gonna start pushing towards the Indian subcontinent over here and start doing major damage on the Indian military. Well, navy, not their military. Well, their navy is part of the military, you know what I mean. And they quickly secure the waters around Malaysia, what did I call this country? Is it Brunei? No, in Malaysia, Indonesia, they start pushing up to Vietnam to meet up with them, to work together with them, and they also take over all Chinese naval assets around North Philippines. But then this is when another country is gonna enter the war. New Zealand joins the war on the side of the Red Circle Alliance. And when they join, they convince a lot of other countries join. Indonesia joins the war. Malaysia joins the war. The Philippines join the war. One second. It's messing up. And Taiwan joins the war. The entire oceanic continent joins the war against Australia and Vietnam. Now, this may have been a bad idea for these island nations, because now, as you can see, Australia's always surrounding four of them. So, Australian troops will make a landing in each of them and quickly take over these two countries. And they even start landing in Indonesia. I want to make this slightly different color. And like I said, they land in Indonesia and start doing quite a bit of work. And they take this part, like they take the whole like eastern part, but they are stopped because surprisingly, Indonesia has been building up like a defense around their like core land, and they're able to stall out the Australians, but they do like completely make a landing along the coast. But basically the whole entire island's in a siege right now. And similar things are gonna happen here with Malaysia, but it's more so gonna be a hefty siege like around the capital. Because Australian troops will encircle the capital, but they won't be able to take it because they also had a feeling that they were going to have to fight Australia one day. So all of this is like completely defended, but they didn't defend the city, so it's able to be taken very quickly because the majority of their military is, like I said, defending here. So Australia's navy is now distracted, and here's the thing. These island nations kind of predicted that they would get, like, curb stomped immediately, but that's the whole goal. They want to distract Australia because Indian naval boats will start fighting Australia on the coast of this island and in the Strait of Malacca. And India and China are actually going to work together to defeat Australia's navy first. And this is supposed to be this color. And the Chinese navy is pretty good. They still aren't as strong as the Australian navy, but they're able to push them back and help liberate the Philippines. They start liberating North Philippines, and then I forgot what color they are. And they land on these islands, but Australia holds tight on these islands. And China is gonna do one of the most impressive naval like actions in history. They're gonna just like spearhead across the sea, cutting Australia off from Vietnam, and slowly destroy all the Australian assets on the coast of Vietnam. And Australia is gonna be a little mad, and they're gonna take their anger out on someone, and that someone is sadly gonna be New Zealand, cause yeah, New Zealand's not exactly strong, but they're gonna try. They're gonna try. So Australia makes a land and then takes one major city down here, makes landing up here, taking this entire island, and hops over to this northern part of this island, and New Zealand's gonna just hold a defensive right here. So that's what's going on in the Australian theater. But now that there's more distractions, Vietnam has sent troops down here to help Australia, like take over Malaysia, Indonesia, help protect their foothold in South Philippines. And yeah, this kind of was the big plan that New Zealand hatched up with the Circle team. So India is finally able to push Vietnam out of the country and storm into it, taking this major city. And when this happens, Vietnam takes troops from down here and puts them right back here, leaving Australia's front line here to crumble. You're supposed to still be over there. Leading to this front line, and Malaysia start crumble as the morale of the troops in Malaysia starts becoming really high. They take all this, but then another event will happen. A very large rebellion takes place in the southern main, the southeastern part of the main island of Australia. And when this happens, more groups are gonna pop out. There's gonna be a small group right here, like a tribal village in the outback. I think this is where the outback is. It's like all of this, I believe. And then up here, this area will also rebel away from Australia. And now Australia's in a civil war. And when this happens, they immediately start losing their foothold in these islands. In fact, it goes pretty quickly as this chain of islands and this island break away from Australia. Now the Australian Civil War shall begin. Rebels will quickly spread out from all the footholds and start pushing into core Australian land. And as they do this, more and more places will break away from Australia. And yeah, Australia is starting to crumble to a democratic rebellion. They are sick and tired of imperialism. They want their country back. They want a democracy. And the people are not gonna let Australia win this rebellion, as more and more rebellions break out across Australia, and eventually Australia will surrender to this rebellion as it just continues to pick up steam. Before they're even able to properly surrender, the rebellion basically looks like this. And even right before surrendering, the people in the capital will rebel away from Australia. Australia has lost this war. New Zealand is fully liberated. And the troops that's fighting in Indonesia and Malaysia uh declare their support for the Circle Alliance. And now it's just Vietnam versus basically all of the Eastern Hemisphere. And it's not gonna look good for them, as Indian troops keep storming and taking yet another city. The Chinese are finally able to kick Vietnam out of their country, and they start a huge front line over here, spanning across the entire border, taking two major cities. India will branch out in here, eventually giving North China like all this occupation, and now the three giant countries will start pushing into Vietnam. Vietnam will attempt to take the Strait of Malacca over, but then the rebellions in Australia break out there, and they start fighting the Vietnamese troops up here. And Vietnam is invaded by the Australian rebellion. Indonesia will make a land in here, and Malaysia will also make a land up here. And now Vietnam is gonna start crumble, as yet another rebellion will pop out during this war. And that rebellion is this island and along the coast of Vietnam, right against this city. And this is a pro-democratic rebellion, and they will like quickly push out, and with all sides invading their country, Vietnam won't even have time to surrender, as all the forces will eventually meet up in the middle of the country and put an end to the Vietnamese Empire and put an end to imperialism once and for all in the world. And now for the peace treaty. I'm going to start off with the islands that Australia controlled. Indonesia will gain control of this island, as the people here more so identify with Indonesia rather than Australia. Malaysia will get this chain of islands, but there will be a deal struck between Indonesia and Malaysia, where Indonesia gets these islands and Malaysia's fine with that, because they will also begin this land. In fact, they get all of that. So Malaysia has from top here to Sri Malacca all the way over here now. This blue country will be released as its own country, not that color, because that's too similar to Philippines. They're going to be this brown color, and they will get all these islands around them. This will be a whole new country, Papua New Guinea. So there'll be all of this as one whole new country. And Australia will be not even divided up, because the people of Australia have overthrown their fascist country and flipped it from an imperialist nation to a democratic one. This new country will be democratic. New Zealand will actually give some of their islands over this brown team to like give them additional like land to help them develop. And now for Vietnam, it's gonna be a little complicated. Thinking about it's not gonna be that complicated because Vietnam will be split into 3 different countries. This blue country, which will be where is this? That's not Malaysia. Myanmar. This will be Myanmar. The Democratic Vietnamese country will be formed here. They will be, however, forced to give China this island back. And up here, this area will be formed into yet another country. It's gonna be the same color as the old Vietnam country, but I guess this will be like Bangladesh. So let me just give them the government icons. I'll name them later. But yeah, these 3 countries will be a democracy, and now the coalition against the Asian fascist powers has succeeded, and all these countries will leave the alliances. Same thing with Chinese countries, but the core circle team will stay together as kind of like a police force in Asia. But before we leave, there's gonna be another article separation being submitted, and it's here in Tunisia because they are seeing the rapid coalitions and wars being fought against around the world against large expansionist countries, and Tunisia wants to prevent their people from seeing the horrors of war again, so they will be breaking up their empire voluntarily, and they will be forming 2 new countries. This yellow country, which would probably be called Libya. What layer is that on? It's on the alliance layer, that black dot. And then Egypt will be reformed as well. Uh-oh. Yes, I erased one. So now Egypt and Libya exists in this world, and Algeria will also do much same. This purple country right here will, they don't get all of Algeria. They don't want that, they just want to be independent. This purple country will exist here, and the cyan country, is that gonna, yeah, that looks a little too similar, so why don't we do, yeah, that color should do. They will form a country right there. So this northern blue one will be called Chad. The southern brown one will be the Central African Union. And the Congo will actually help out the CAU and give them some of their land, because they plan on breaking up the empire to give the people of their country their own identities instead of forcing their own. So CAU is pretty big, and like I said, the Congo will be breaking up as well. into like a few different countries. And this is how it's gonna look. There's gonna be this red country, which will be Liberia. Yeah, that's the name I want to go for. I'm on the wrong layer. So Liberia will exist here. Algeria also wasn't done splitting up. And they bring back Mali. This green country will be formed. This will be Cameroon. And this gray country will be formed. And this shall be Gabon. What the hell? What layer is this line on? Fixed it. It was on the capital layer. So, yeah. These countries now exist. I decided to go with slightly different names. So this is what Africa looks like now. And this is Oceania. Yeah. The world's filling up with countries. And for our last event of this episode, Peru and Guyana will decide to, apply to join the Star Alliance again, now that they're democratic, and the Star Alliance will allow them back in. But if they go imperialist again, they will face a coalition, and they agree to this. And yeah, that'll do for this episode. Pakistan, you're not at war anymore. In Afghanistan. Yeah. Right. So that's our world map now. See you guys next episode.